Traci,
Hi, Kory.
welcome.
Thank you so much for having me.
Pleasure. So, Traci, I had this experience, but the moment people meet you, they feel calmer, like a motherly nature. There's a warmth, like your favorite aunts. Where does that come from? Who in your life taught you to make everyone feel at home?
I don't know that anybody taught me how to do that, but I have a funny story. I ran track in high school, and my senior year they were giving out like these superlative awards or whatever, and so the my team was presenting me with a senior award, and it was that I was the team mom. So because I was running around making sure everybody had what they need. Did they have their shoes? Did they have their spikes? Did they have the right spikes in the spikes? And did they warm up, and did they stretch, and what did they need help with? Did they need anything? So I I guess it's just a part of who I am. My father is a very calming presence. I didn't grow up with a chaotic household of any kind. Um, but also, like, as a child, like I would just like go crawl up in my uncle's lap and sit down and just fall asleep and just be calm. So maybe it's that. I tend to, even in like severe situations, like, hey, a tornado alarm is going off. I'm like, okay, everybody get up, get your shoes on, let's go to the tornado. So I tend to like just have a calm reactive no matter what it is. So um, I hope that's helpful in what I do. But just, letting others know I'm here, I'm listening, we're going to figure this out. Um, yeah.
Well, you from the moment I met you, you exude this sense of calm, and I'm glad I'm not offbeat, saying back to your athletic days. Did you grow up in a small town or a big city?
I grew up in Naples, Florida, which is, 40 years ago, it was much smaller than it is today. But it was a great place to grow up. It was growing. There was new construction happening. The beach is right there. So it not too terribly. I mean, I didn't feel like it's a super small town feel. I feel like it was pretty expansive. We had everything that we needed to have, and we didn't have to drive to another city to find a grocery store or anything like that. We had more than one stoplight, things like that. So it was a growing town. I would say that it's a growing town. Yeah.
And sports and athletics was a big part of your upbringing, and I think
Yeah.
is still part of your life today. Can you talk us through a little bit about that? I understand you played collegiate or a collegiate athlete.
Yeah, I was. I always played a sport. I don't really know. I think growing up, I this is going to sound really funny, but I always wanted to be a boy growing up. I loved sports. Most of my friends were boys growing up, and I always wanted to play baseball. So I got into t-ball at a pretty young age, like probably 5 or 6, and I played softball through middle school and um, was on a travel team. And then I got into cross country and track and soccer in high school, and then went on. I had a track and cross country scholarship to college, and kind of went on and spent my years in college continuing my sports career, and that was important to me. I feel like that's probably where I learned how to be a good teammate, and how to work in a team to accomplish a goal. I attribute to sports and the coaches that fed into my life during my time in those particular activities. It's all important, and I think it's part of what makes me who I am today, because I learned how to be a good teammate at a very early age.
Well, there's a tremendous amount of sports and athletic parallels that I'm sure will pull over into your professional business life. Um, but you work in the construction industry, and I think we just unlocked something there that when you say when you were growing up as a girl and all your friends were boys and you were competitive amongst a group of boys, you end up in the construction industry as a female. And of
Yeah.
all industries, the industry is changing, but with your background, maybe can we jump straight to that, being a female in the construction industry, and
Sure.
kind of explain the obstacles and challenges there? And I don't see it. I kind of don't see it as dissimilar as as being the girl wanting to play sports with the boys.
Yeah, there probably are some parallels there. I wasn't intimidated. I think a lot of girls can tend to group together and be really intimidated of that group of boys over there, and I was like, I'm just going to go talk to them. Like, and so I just wasn't intimidated, and I would say that today, like, I'm not intimidated to be in a group of men. I'm comfortable being in that space. I know even a lot of times people tend to tailor their language based on like who is in the room, and so as a female in a room, they're like, oh, sorry, I didn't mean to curse in front of you, and I'm like, speak freely, like, you're amongst friends here, like, you don't have to tailor the way you would normally be because I'm in the room. So I'm not intimidated in that way. um, I'm very comfortable in that space. And so I think today, our environment in construction is changing all the time. 25 years ago, when I was going through my construction master's program, we were a cohort of 13 individuals, but 6 of us were females even 25 years ago. And so I think we've seen over the landscape how much that has changed, even just in the last 25 years, of it being um, there being more women in the industry today than there ever have been, and I'm so grateful for the other women that have paved the way, for me to be able to be a success in this space. I know it's not because of anything I've done; it's because of the others that have come before me and kind of started to pave that way of being a figure in the construction industry to where now it's normalized for me to be here and to be a presence in the industry. So I'm grateful for that, but it's been fun. It's been challenging at times. I think sometimes gaining credibility as a woman in the industry is a little bit difficult. I do feel a sense of I need to prove myself that I really know what I'm talking about. I have to go through my lineage and tell them how long I've been in the industry and my educational background and, things like that, where it's like, who are you to tell me how to run my construction company with best practices? Like, what makes you think that you get to tell me how I could, gain efficiencies here? And so I do feel like there is maybe a sense of that from time to time when I get into conversations of, what are you going to tell me that's something new? And I have to prove myself a little bit more, or go into a room with somebody who already has that credibility that can give me that credibility in a room from time to time. So it happens, but it's getting better and better and easier all the time. The longer it goes, and the more the industry shifts and changes, and people get used to the different ways that women are involved in our industry. I mean, we've got women crane operators here in Nashville. We've got um, dump truck drivers and heavy equipment drivers, because we're very attention to detail and focused, and things like that make women really good at even some of the trades that are in construction. So I think there's a lot of change that's happening and a lot of shift for women in this industry, and I'm just excited that I get to be a part of that because I love it so much.
It's obvious, and you made mention there of sort of women before you opening the door or paving the path for you. Is there anyone that came to mind specifically when you said that about a mentor or someone that came before you that paved the way? Anyone specifically?
Yeah, I've joined a couple of groups over the last couple of years, the National Women in Construction Associations, and we have some local chapters that I'm a part of. And I've just had an opportunity to meet women who've been in the industry for nearly 50 years. And you think about that, like, that's 25 years longer than I have, and what a difference it was for them. And they've talked about not even having a woman's bathroom, or things like that today I don't even have to think about that today. So just there have been several that have just spoken into my life and just given me wisdom and given me encouragement along the way. And I think anytime you have an opportunity to have a mentor, no matter who it is a good thing to have in life. But I've had an opportunity to have a couple that have been able to speak into me a little bit and give me courage and boldness, and um, just help to shape me who I am in my career today.
Well, we've come to know each other, but our family is a third generation business and has always been at least half female owned. So from
Oh,
my wife
awesome.
Blair's grandma, Myra, to Blair, it was a and Phyllis that are still partners today. So we get it, and I've seen it, but it's really all I know in the industry. So it's
Yeah.
interesting to hear your journey. So if we,
Yeah, and we're fourth generation in my family too. My great grandfathers on both sides of my family were contractors, and then down my dad's side, my grandfather was a developer and a builder, and my dad's a builder, and I'm I have the same degree my dad has, and that's really cool. I grew up in it too, so it's kind of in the DNA, and I grew up smelling the rough cut sawn wood, like, and that smell is just like, yes, I love it. Get
so
me in the field.
let's go there. So little Tracy, uh, superstar athlete in Naples, Florida, and multi-generational family business of construction, which this is how it piqued your interest.
I probably, I mean, I knew when I was a sophomore in high school that that was kind of what I wanted to do. So I feel like it's all I've ever known, and I feel like it's all I've ever wanted to do. I didn't know probably at that point in time exactly what I wanted to do, but I was like, I think I'm going to take a drafting class. I had that as an elective in high school, and so I started taking drafting, and I can still draw perfectly to a quarter-inch scale today. And like those kinds of classes, and I had an interior design class, and I was like, yeah, this suits me. I love this space, and so I think I want to do something with this. And so that was just kind of I had that. I felt good at it, and I felt like it was something that I loved passionately. I was very good at it. And so I was like, I think in my collegiate aspirations, I want to go to a school that I know has interior design or something that's going to set me up to come into this industry, whether I go on to become an architect, an interior designer. I actually didn't think that I was going to come into the construction side. I thought I was going to be an interior designer that worked with contractors to build out interior spaces and make them fantastic. And so it was kind of an accidental shift for me to come into to actual construction. But I got into the master's program. So I did my undergraduate in interior design, and I had aspirations to go on and get a graduate degree. And so when I went to go do that, I was applying to architecture schools. And so I got through my architectural interview, and I was going to have to repeat a lot of classes that I took in college. And it was a 3-year program. And I was like, I don't think this is it for me. And so I walked across the hall and saw that there was a construction management program. And I popped my head in the door, and I was like, hey, tell me about this construction management program. And he said, well, sit down and have a seat. And I didn't have any idea at the time that I was talking to the dean of the program. And so we just had a conversation. And at the end, I was like, well, how do I apply? He was like, well, you just did. You'll start in the fall. And I was like, okay. And so that was the cohort of 13 that I ended up going through my program with. And the longer that I sat there and I listened to what it was, I was like, yeah, this feels like home. And so that was kind of what propelled me into my career in construction. And I started working at a large residential contractor that owned an interior design firm. So it kind of fit both of my educational backgrounds kind of perfectly as my first job in the construction space. And then that kind of helped me to prepare me as a project manager, and I worked as a project manager for several years before I accidentally fell into the construction tech side of the business. So, yeah, it's just kind of interesting how probably my upbringing and just being around construction all the time led me down the path to where I sit today. So it's kind of a fun legacy.
It it's a remarkable balance that you have of this self confidence to walk into the other department or the head guy and say I'm interested in this, and just like being a little girl and wanting to play sports with the boys, and just like going into construction. Um, you have that, but it comes off in such a you have such an interesting balance of it's wrapped that sort of ambition and go getter mentality is wrapped in the first question I asked you, in this blanket of warmth and making people feel like home, of a southern hospitality sort of a way, and it's an amazing balance and skill set to have. It's incredible.
There was something that my dad said to me repeatedly growing up is to always be sweet, and maybe that's just something you tell girls, be sweet. But then the other thing that he instilled in me is that it pays to be nice. And growing up, I heard that all the time growing up, but the longer that I'm in business, business in general, doesn't matter if I'm on a construction job site or if I'm working with clients in this business today, being nice gets me much farther down the road than being upset and screaming at people to try to get something accomplished. And so I think that just kind of became a life motto of be nice, be sweet. You're going to get a lot farther in life with honey than you are being the bee. So um, that's interesting, and that's fun that that comes out, because that's something that's very important to me. We're a relational business, right? Construction is a super relational business. I know my subcontractors. We have our favorite subcontractors. We use them over and over again, and I want the good ones to continue to want to work for me, and they're going to want to work for me if we're working as a team to get things done, and they get paid on time, and the projects are fun, and they like working for me. If I'm nasty, they're not going to want to come work for me. They have plenty of opportunities elsewhere to go work for the nice people. So, for me, it pays to be nice. I hope that our business now attracts nice people. And we do. We have wonderful clients, and so it's my joy that I get to serve them. And honestly, now I get to live vicariously through them. Now that I'm not a project manager anymore.
What comes to mind, I think it's Michael Dell has a book or a quote that says, play nice but win. And so I
Mm,
think there's a balance of you are nice and you play nice. And I agree with a lot of what you're saying and embody the same ethos. But at the end of the day, business is still a sport and a competition, and you still want to win. So there's a difference between being nice and being a pushover and losing, and play nice but win. And I think you
yeah.
are an incredible example as a leader in our industry of that.
Oh, thank you so much.
So transitioning from, you grew up in the business, sports, um, you end up in construction, which was, it sounded like it was an inevitable path. Whether you were going to whether you were going to zigzag, interior design and architecture, it's pretty funny because to you that maybe isn't construction, but that certainly
Oh,
is
it's
that
all the
certainly is
industry.
construction. So you were headed that way. It was kind of written in the stars. Um, so you decided to go into construction. You started in residential contracting, and you're in the traditional construction world.
Hmm.
When and why do you decide it's a good idea to get into construction tech?
Well, I said it was an accident. So I was hired as a project manager for a small woman-owned construction company here in Nashville in 2006, the end of 2006. And this construction management software was new to the industry, and we were the first company ever to buy it. And then somebody had to implement it, and I was the youngest on the team. And so it became my job that, okay, we're going to move from Microsoft Word, Excel products and start to move into this software thing. Um, and you're the youngest, and it's going to be what you do. So I actually onboarded technology, coming from those very manual methods to now starting to use a software and teach it to our team internally. And fast forward 4 years, and we worked hard to get our entire operation using the system and using technology and communicating through it, and everything in our processes being streamlined. And um, I really do believe that the technology helped me to become an even better project manager. And so our owner decided to close the company and retire. And when that happened, I was probably 7 months pregnant, and I was racking my brain of what am I going to do? Like, who's going to want to hire a lady that's about ready to have a baby and um, want to go on maternity leave for a little while. Um, and so I started thinking about, well, who are all the companies that I have relationship with in town that I would even want to go work for? And so I had thought in my mind, the CEO of this software company, I have a really great relationship with him. I have no idea what I would want to do for him because I don't want to do sales. So I can't explore that. And because I don't even know what I would do for him. And so fast forward, my family ended up moving from Nashville, Tennessee to Kansas City, and I was going to have to start all over again. And about 6 months later, the owner of the software company ended up calling me and saying, "Hey, Tracy, you want a job?" And I was like, "Well, Pat, I don't know what I would do for you. Like, I don't want to do sales." And he's like, "Well, Tracy, I don't want you to do sales. I want you to teach other general contractors that are a good fit for our software how to use it." And I was like, "Well, I can do that." He was like, "You can do that, and you can do it remotely." And I was like, awesome, deal. So that's kind of how I got into the tech side. And my first, I was the fourth employee ever hired. And so when you're that young and that scrappy of a business, you wear multiple hats. And so while I didn't want to do sales, I did a lot of salesy things. I did cold calling, trying to book demos. I would join some of the demos. Um, but what makes me a good salesperson, and I'm not a salesperson, I will never claim to be a salesperson, is that I've used it and I know in my gut what it feels like to onboard a new software as a construction company. Whether you're going from very manual methods, or nowadays you're coming most likely from a software to a new software, and you still have that learning curve. I know what that feels like, and I know the benefits that I received at the end of the day of making that leap and buying into a workflow and a process, and then watching the impact of that grow my business. And so um, that's what makes me a good salesperson. That's also what made me a good training person, to help others adopt technology and a process and a standard and repeatable process to that. And then watch them grow their businesses and have the success that I saw, and know that I played just the tiniest part of that. And that's very gratifying for me. That's why I come back to work every single day and do what I do, is because I know that the impact that the technology is making on the business, that they're having a better day because our paths crossed and the software is doing its job in making their businesses better, more efficient, less work, and they're seeing the growth that they want to see as a business. Because at the end of the day, it is a business, and we want the businesses to flourish and grow. And technology in construction, we're a very slow industry to adopt technology. But I think the more that we progress into the future, the more we're seeing the impact that technology has the ability to have on the business. And we're adapting. It's slow, but we're adapting and we're getting there. And that's really, really exciting.
So Tracy, I don't know if you're realizing it, but there's a lot of parallels of your life in different phases. The starting with the dean, you take the initiative, and the dean says you've already started this program. And then the tech CEO, you put yourself out there, but he came to you and said, "Tracy, come work for me." And so you should be proud and cognizant of sort of that magic energy you exude that attracts people to want Tracy, in their programs and on their companies. So it's a remarkable feature you have. Um, let's go into the construction side of it. So you were getting to it. Construction, getting people to use a computer in construction in the early
Mm.
days and not a fax machine. Oh my
Oh
gosh,
my
what are you
goodness.
talking about? And that was before my time, but I know it because I'm in a third generation business, and landlines are like that for me. So construction,
Yeah.
opposite, opposite industry of technology. In today's world, technology and AI are integrating into everything. Construction is always behind, generally, in terms of tech across the board. How has it been with, I think you're 14, 15 years in a technology construction company? I
Yeah.
know there's been acquisitions, but where you started from that original call is where you still work today, which we're going to get to. RedTeam is the name of the company now. So in your decade and a half at RedTeam, and in the construction industry, how have you seen the evolution of tech from back then when he recruited you to start to where you're at today?
Oh goodness, just in the way that it's been able to be simplified, I think is a big deal. We go back and we go look at an iPhone from 2010 and we're like, "Oh my goodness, how did we ever do that?" Now I just updated to the new iOS and it's bubbles, and like it's very easy, it's very user friendly, it's very intuitive. And so I think we've come a long way just in UI UX updates, like um, making things front facing and very easy to use and intuitive, and um, not as clunky. And coming from, we're a spreadsheet industry. I don't know if you know this, Kory, but we're a very spreadsheet heavy, documentation heavy industry. And so a lot of times, like, how do you mirror in a technology things that are familiar to folks who are slow to change and change processes. And so we do have a lot of spreadsheet like things that are in our technology tools, but we've seen a lot of simplification, a lot of building in normal workflows that people in construction are used to doing, and now we're just doing it in a more efficient way. And so I think even over time, from beginning of developing that workflow to today, the role is, well, how do I make it faster? How do I take out the things that make it difficult? Am I going to know what I'm supposed to do when I land here, and build those things and continue to make it easy to use so that we get more adoption as the industry grows. So I think we've seen a lot of that growth, and I think that's still our challenge. And how do we continue to build a software where we cover the gaps that are needed, as well as make it a simple, easy, fast thing to do? Because we, as contractors, our deadlines are here. Like, we're always moving at 110 miles an hour to get to the deadline, to be on budget, to be on schedule, because we're going to lose money if we don't do those things. And so how do we build a software that allows a contractor to move at the rate that they need to move? And how do we keep it so that they're paying attention to the most important things, which is not managing the paperwork? Yes, it's of vital importance. We have to document. We have to document, and we need a central place to house those documents. But we need our project managers being project managers and managing the job, not spending time issuing subcontracts and putting together the change orders. We want those processes in our software to be simple and fast and to be correct. Because at the end of the day, they're going to feed our financial statements that help us know whether we're winning on the job or not. So I think those are always our constant challenges that we have as a software business, of how do we accomplish what we at the end of the day need to accomplish, and how do we make our tasks simple and efficient for our companies that buy our software.
Yep. You explained it well, and in full disclosure, Axis is a recent new client of RedTeam, and other than loving you and your service and ability to sell us on the product, you mentioned the word simple there like 6 times, and I have this saying that simplicity is the ultimate sophistication, and that's what we should strive for, particularly in our industry. My wife's grandfather, who's first generation of Axis, it was a different company name, but started the company. He has this saying that he always would tell me as I got into the business, that I have framed in my office. It says, "Construction is complicated." And so I've tried to think about, in my 6 years in the industry, how we can simplify construction and the processes, and Red Team is going to be, as we're going through the integration, a large piece of that I'm extremely excited about.
Yeah. And I think you're set up well in hospitality in general, because, you go into a hotel, man, is that ever a standard repeatable process? Like, you've got 15 queen suites, and you're going to do the same thing in each one. So, I think for your business and hospitality in general, you're already a process driven organization in your specialty that you have as Access Hospitality, and going into those workspaces and needing your brand to shine. You have a very unique construction scenario in that you're probably doing construction while a portion of the hotel is still accepting guests. And so, how do you keep it clean? How do you keep it organized? How do you keep the noise down? How are you making the guests feel by being a presence on that hotel site, while you're doing your work and guests are still experiencing the hotel? But man, I was thinking about that, in the hospitality, and why I felt like our software would be a great fit for you is because we're all about standard repeatable process. And hotel construction is that. It's a standard repeatable process. So I have no doubt that it's going to be great for your team. And I'm excited that you use the system and that we've been able to develop a relationship thus far. And I'm sure that the software is going to continue to do awesome things for your business.
Absolutely. And to your point, opposite of my grandfather's quote about construction being complicated, I often say the construction is the least complicated part of what we do as hotel renovators. It's everything else you're alluding to that is the complicated part.
Yeah.
So a tool like RedTeam that can help simplify the construction management side of it, I'm extremely excited about. So Red Team isn't the only construction software, in the industry. There's competitors far larger and I'm sure smaller than Red Team. What gives Red Team the edge outside of the simplicity and Tracy? What gives Red Team the edge over, we don't have to mention them, but there's 800-pound gorillas in the industry, and there's small little startups that are probably
Yeah.
trying to take market share from you. Why Red Team over all the other softwares?
There's a few differentiators I think that make Red Team really special. The first and one that's, as you can probably tell, most important to me is that we are a relational driven company. Our the relationships matter to us, and we want to feel like we're an extension of your team. We want you to feel like we're an extension of your team. Um, the software shows up to work for you 24/7, and we love that we know our clients. We want to know our clients' businesses and their unique scenarios and niches, and help them to utilize the software in a way that helps their businesses to grow. And so I think that's something that does differentiate us from our competitors, is that our level of care. We have a fantastic support team that shows up and works hard for our clients every day, and the speed at which we try to resolve any issues that might arise, or the speed at which our how-tos come in from our clients of, hey, I'm stuck here, how do I do this, I don't quite remember how to do it, and getting them unblocked really quickly, and the speed at which we do that. We really have real people on the other end of the chat, that really do know the ins and outs of the software. And so that's important to us, how we staff our team, that we have people that understand what it's like to have to move at a very fast pace as a contractor, and have that impact every aspect of our business, from the support when you come into chat and you have a need, to how we escalate that in our teams, and the speed at which we try to get things resolved, because we understand what it's like to have to run out the door in a hard bid situation, and you can't print the budget report that you need to include in your proposal package. So just having people here at the company that understand in their gut what is at stake. And I think that's another differentiator. We are a software that was built by contractors for contractors. That's one thing I haven't mentioned, is that our software, we have two different products. The original product that I came to work for was acquired, but we have very similar origin stories in that our software businesses were owned by contractors who had a real business need to solve. And so our solutions were built out of the needs that we had in actual construction companies. And so the lenses that we look at solving the problem are that of a contractor. And so we have that relatability, and that's probably leads us into why we're so relationally driven, is because we've been there. We've had boots on the ground. We know what it feels like to be stuck in this way, and we wanted to create a solution that solved real needs that our contractors were feeling on a day-to-day basis. So those are two big things I think that set us apart from our competitors. We have a broad platform. We do go all the way from the bidding process, and we do all the document management and control along the way to get to close out punch lists, substantial completion, and close the project out at the end of the day. We handle all of those workflows without needing to break it up into individual parts and pieces that you have to purchase to get an entire suite. And we try really hard to provide value without nickeling and diming our clients. We give them a lot of value with having an all-in-one solution. So those are some of the things that differentiate us from our competitors. But the relational aspect, and the level of understanding that we have as a business and relating to our clients that come to us is probably one of the biggest ones, and the ones that I'm most proud of.
There's a few things to unpack there, and I agree with so much of what you said. Relationships, construction. We're all contractors, um, but at the end of the day, we're all hiring each other to do with relationships, handshakes, and contracts that we know each other, and it's our network, and that's what really moves construction projects forward. It's one of the few industries that still run that way. where
Right.
you're hiring me as a general because of my network and relationships of my subs and vendors and resources and abilities. And, you know, taking that old school relationship, not trying to lose that. But I think it's inevitable that a construction company in today's world and in the future world, they have to have technology and software. And that's been one of my big pushes. You know, truthfully, we're still a, you know, pre red team a month ago. We're still a third generation family business operating off spreadsheets. And we are. And so you came into our life in such a great time. So I think it's inevitable that you have to move to software to run a sustainable business in the modern world. But I like what you said about the relationships, and part of what drew me to Red Team. You know, obviously we looked at several softwares. As much as the bells and whistles and simplification that the software can do this and click that and organize that, it is still so nice and a level of comfort for me, even being a millennial that is good at technology, relatively speaking, to have Tracy, who I know there's a person and not just a bot. Is that,
Mm.
especially in our world of AI, which I want to get your thoughts on in a minute, there is something to be said about a scaling software business that is still, you know, I don't know, not founder led is maybe the right word, but there's still a human touch that I really hope you guys don't lose, because I think it's a, while it's difficult to scale, it's a point of differentiation versus a large publicly traded company with a software, and it's all about the software and not about the people. And I think you guys are kind of the opposite, where you're leading people first. You just happen to have a software, and by the way, it was built by contractors who've been in your shoes, and this is, they had a problem that they solved, you know, for their own need, and this is why I think that's why you've had some success.
Mm. Mm. Thank you. Very well said.
And so speaking of fancy softwares and AI, I know we haven't had conversations about this, but I know you as the head of Red Team have to be thinking about it, talking about it, how you're going to use it, how is it going to change our industry, how is it going to change construction tech, and you know, all the question is posed with the understanding and the context that construction tech 1.0 is getting people off fax machines, getting them to a Microsoft spreadsheet. That was a big deal. And my father-in-law could tell you that that was a big deal. And I can send emails and not faxes. And but now, how do we take this industry that's still in the 1 foot spreadsheet? Okay, I need a software. How do we, you know, now we're talking about a quantum leap coming with AI. How are you thinking about that? And what
Yeah.
aspect,
Oh man.
impact is that going to have?
You know, AI has the potential to impact everything. You know, it's how are we going to harness that power in the construction world? And I think it can be done a lot of different ways. You know, we're dipping our toe in, you know, right now with having AI have the ability to read a spec book and pull out all the submittals, you know, and help us to create this submittal log and to populate that, or to be able to put in an AI chatbot and say, hey, Artie, you know, how am I going to, what kind of mortar do I need? You know, how far, what do my joints need to look like? You know, what do I need for X? And be able to have a conversation with an AI bot that can search the documents. We're a document heavy industry. We got a lot of documents that we're going to upload. So how does the AI bot have the ability to read our documents and answer our questions so that we can do our job more efficiently? And, you know, the language models are getting more and more sophisticated. We need the we've got the large learning models. We need one that is very construction industry forward, you know, and I think that that's going to come, and we have every opportunity to be able to incorporate AI into anything that we do. You know, so we're dipping our toe in little ways, but I want there to be a world in which I can pick up my phone and I can say, "Hey, Artie, go put together a preliminary budget for me on a 10,000 square foot 2-story building using my own historical data from my Red Team website that I've put so much data into. Use my own data and unit pricing to go put together a preliminary budget for X." Having it, you know, gather data that already exists in the system and auto populate it into where it belongs. You know, I can auto generate a set of meeting minutes based on information that I've collected over the last 2 weeks? Or, how can I pre-populate what should be happening today onto my daily log based on what's in the schedule? Or, there's a million and a half different ways that we can use AI. And so I think our industry is just tapping the surface of the different ways that we're going to be able to use it. I don't think it's going to replace a person, but I think it's going to be a great support that continues to allow project managers to gain efficiencies where they don't have to spend as much time as they used to have to spend doing tasks that they used to do, because now we can rely on technology to do some of those things so that we can pay attention and do the things that are most important to a business, which is, for a project manager, is maintaining relationships. They have to maintain a relationship with the owner of the project, with all of their tradespeople that are on the project, with their site superintendent, with their CEO and the owner of their construction company. They're a master manager of relationships. And so how do we make their lives easier day to day in anything that we do in software technology so that they get the job done that they need to get done for their business? So, I think AI has the ability to help us in so many ways to do that, and I'm really excited. We've got a lot of really smart people, and we've got a lot of work to do. But I think that the sky is kind of the limit in how we're going to have the ability to incorporate some of these tools to continue to make our particular software program even better for years to come. So it's exciting. It's an exciting time. I mean, it changes all the time. Like we used to think, technology changes every 3 years. I've got to get a new computer because my computer's out of date, and the technology changes so fast. And to look at, oh my gosh, AI just sped that up exponentially. And so I think it's a constantly changing environment in technology. And I just think we have a lot of opportunity. It's an exciting time to be in a tech business because things are changing so fast, and there's so many cool things happening that you can harness and build in. And so it's really cool. And I'm happy to be here and be along for the ride.
Awesome. Well, when you get me, you're probably annoyed at me, but I'm not going to be shy about throwing ideas at you. And I think I already have in our short term, but a couple AI ideas I have, which you could take and throw in the trash, or you can consider predictive scheduling. So, for instance, in our
Yeah.
business, we've done hundreds of hotels. That's all we do is hotel renovations. We have this historical database, which right now is all on Microsoft Project and manual spreadsheet schedules. But in theory, they're in a RedTeam software that can access and scan the database. I have another 100-room Marriott hotel with a similar scope that I've done 25 other times based on historical data. On average, how long should it take me to do that project? And
Yeah.
help me develop a schedule. Because in reality, that's what we're doing anyways, is we're saying, well, we did a project very similar to this, and what did that take? And, you know, AI predictive scheduling, that's one. You mentioned my, auto. Everyone knows about the, OAC calls and auto meeting notes summaries. That one's easy. Field reports for superintendents. You kind of just did an analogy about talking to Artie in your phone. I don't know if you hit on it, but one thing that's cool about Red Team is not just a project management software, but our field superintendents in the field will be doing their daily reports and logs while they're distributed throughout the country, and it summarizes it, into a nice report. Um, Instead of trying to have a superintendent, which maybe can't even use a computer, trying to fill out a daily report, talking to the AI agent saying, on today's job we did XYZ, there was this delivery, here's some photos, and dictating the terms to the AI agent, and then the agent puts the report together instead of someone trying to manually type out the report. That seems like low-hanging fruit. And then this is a personal one for me, but as a national general contractor, it is impossible to keep track of all the tax laws for contractors. Every city, every country, every state, everyone's got a different rule. And that I've talked to people from Avalara and whoever will listen to me about this. In today's world with AI and software, I should be able to say that I'm doing a hotel renovation project in Miami, Florida, and that AI agent should tell me these are the tax requirements for a commercial general contractor in that, state, zip, county, whatever. So tax law is something that is complicated and easy to overlook. And nobody can keep track of all of it. So those are my quick versions. I have others, but I think there's a lot of opportunity given the database, like you said, of that we'll be able to apply the AI to.
Yeah, well, hopefully in the recording you won't hear my typing because I was typing those down as you were talking. So,
Well, good. Oh, good. You're going to get sick of me because I'm going to keep throwing you ideas. I love the technology side of an antiquated
well,
industry, and
well, right. And what we talk about too is one of the pleasures that I have is that I get to travel around and I get to meet our clients and listen and hear and get your feedback and your ideas and bring those back to the company as part of a feedback loop for us to evaluate what we want to work on. We know what we need to work on, you know, what's some of our technical debt and what are the things that we need to work on, but what are our clients saying and where are they hitting roadblocks, or what really need I we're not the smartest people in the room. Like we use our software, but like you guys use the software. So what are you seeing, and what are ways that we can take your feedback and build your feedback into the program that makes it an even better software and covers that gap for you. And so that's one of the things that I love doing. So I hope you don't ever stop giving me the feedback and the ideas because they don't go into never land, and we never do anything with them. We do have a program on how we evaluate client suggestions, and we may have to put them into a bucket for when we have time to go work on that particular module or build it into a bigger project that we know we have coming that we may not see for 6 months. But we do take all the feedback and evaluate it and try to group as many things together so that when that time comes, we're building in as much of our client feedback in with our new technology tools. And how is technology going to help us maybe change a process that's been around for 150 years in construction and make it better and easier to do. And so I think it's a really delicate balance in software development to balance that, the needs that we know we have as the tech company with the needs that our clients have, and the how and with how is technology changing and how are we going to build all those things together to create an awesome software that has the benefits that you need to see as the client that owns our software. So I hope you never stop sharing those things. You've got an open door here, and I'll take notes, I'll write it up, and we evaluate them every Wednesday. So there you
awesome.
go.
By contractors for contractors. I have
Yep.
a couple questions. We're getting towards the end here, and then we're going to end with a series of rapid fire questions that might maybe will be a little fun. Um,
Okay.
I never asked you this. Why is it called Red Team?
You know, I should have our Red Team founder Michael share that story with you sometime. And I do not do as eloquent of a job as I should explaining where Red Team came from, but you know, it's a military term, and so it came from that, and that being the team to call when you're in a scenario that you've got to run down and see what it's gonna how it's going to run before you get into a field situation. And so it kind of comes out of that. And I know I did not do it justice at all. Mike's going to be like, no, she didn't get it at all. So we should have him come on sometime and share that origin story a little bit. It's always fun to hear from him too. So, but yeah, that's kind of where it came from. And so we want to be that team that you call that says, okay, we have this problem. How are you going to solve it for me? And I hope our software continues to be that software that people call on when they need it.
Awesome. Um, let's say, Tracy, we're having this conversation again, and the year is 2030.
Mm.
Where do you want Red Team to be when you and I are talking 5 years from now?
You know, I want Red Team to continue to be so simple. I want us to be the software that people associate with solving their needs. I want people to come to Red Team because we understand the business and we solve the problem. And not because we maybe have the brightest and the shiniest, but because they're taken care of, they're heard of. Our software comes to work hard for them every day. They have all the things that they need, and to become the preferred construction management tool in the industry. That would be where I hope we're on the path there.
And before I get into the rapid fire questions, Tracy, I understand you've passed down your athletic prowess to some of your kids, and you have some serious athletes that you're raising. If you want to say a little bit about that, and some of the soccer,
Absolutely.
and also say a little bit about being a tech executive in our industry and balancing the work and mom and
Oh
sports
man.
and the lifestyle that comes with the playing competitive sports at the highest level. And
Yeah, I never it's so funny when you're growing up and you picture your life 20 years from now. Never imagined that my life would look the way that it looks. So I am a wife to my husband JP. We've been married. It'll be 25 years in July, which I shouldn't be old enough to even say that. I've been married 25 years. I've been married to him longer than we lived apart. That's weird. But we have a four beautiful children. I have three boys and one girl. um, Never in my life would I have said that I was going to have four children. And so, but here we are. They're 15, 14, 11, and 9. And they all play sports. We have our oldest son, whose name is Hawkins. He is a competitive soccer player. He is our elite athlete that plays for an MLS academy team, which is the MLS soccer team's youth program that is feeding into the MLS first team. And so he plays for the U16 Nashville SC Soccer Academy team, and so that's been a wonderful experience for him. He's learning things now as a 13, 14, 15 year old that my husband and I didn't experience until we were college athletes. And so he's learning how to advocate for himself, how to have hard conversations with adults. Um, why is he not getting to start? You know, that feeling emotionally of not being the best, and how do you deal with all of those things and the emotional aspect, and just having very grown up experiences. I have to drop him off at the curb at the airport and just kind of wave. I can't go in. I can't have the hard conversations for him. The coaches expect that he's doing that. And so he's having a very unique experience, which is really fun. And as a parent, my husband and I get to watch his growth and cheer him on and let him have these experiences and not get involved. And sometimes that's really hard as a parent, because we want to advocate for our children, but he has to learn how to advocate for himself. And so just the life lessons that, I got a lot of life lessons, but I never had anything like this at 13, 14, 15. So that's fun. Our 14-year-old is a competitive rock climber, indoor rock climber. And so that's been a really interesting experience. He was climbing the walls in our house, and my husband and I got into the rock climbing gyms here in Nashville pre-kids. And so we have a rock climbing gym that's right up the street from us here in East Nashville. And I was like, I got to take this kid up here and see if they have some kind of a rec program. And his coaches were like, hey, he's really good at this. And so after about 9 months of him being in the rec program, they invited him to keep stepping up all the way to the competition team. And so that's just been a really fun experience in a completely different sports world than what my husband and I have ever experienced before, and learning something new. So our worlds kind of balance there in soccer and rock climbing. My kids, my husband was a soccer player. He was a collegiate soccer player, but started playing when he was 4, and he's been coaching since he was about 16 as well. So it's just yeah, we love sports. We love soccer. Now we love rock climbing. But my third son, my 11-year-old, is just a soccer player. They're all goalkeepers. My husband was a goalkeeper. My oldest is a goalkeeper. And of course, my 11-year-old wants to be just like his big brother and be a goalkeeper too. And now my daughter does as well. So she plays soccer and does rock climbing. So she just combined them both. So it's been fun. And hopefully we're supportive and giving them some experiences that we know as a family, like, helped to shape my husband and I into the individuals that we are. Learning how to be a teammate, learning how to be a supportive sibling, learning some of those things that help to shape us into who we are today, that we're hoping to instill into our kids as well. So it's fun. But yeah, man, is it a balance? It's hard. I always wanted to work. I never had a burning desire that I only want to stay home and be a mom. I always knew, like, yes, I want to be a mom, but I love construction. I never wanted to give it up, so I wanted to figure out how am I going to do it. And I was fortunate enough to have a CEO where family was also very important to them, and let me come work part-time And I'm the one that put myself into full time. I was like, hey, Pat, like I got to come work full time now. There's so much that I need to do that I can't if I'm just part time. And so he kind of let me make that decision for myself. And I'm ready to take on more and be full time. And so he kind of gave me the autonomy to do that at the time, which I think was really, really helpful for me and being able to be what I needed to be for my kids when they were small. And then as they continued to grow, I continued to grow in the business side as well. And so that's been so interesting. And my mom asks me all the time, like, or says to me, Tracy, I don't know how you do it. Honestly, I have no idea how I do it either. Like you do what you have to do because it's what you have to do, and so you just figure it out. But it's funny now, when we have aunts come stay with the kids, so my husband and I can go away on a trip, and they're like, "Oh my gosh, like I don't know how do you like?" They just had to take one kid places. But yeah, it's hard. You learn how to do it, and I'm fortunate that I have a wonderful partner in my husband that we get to share in the responsibilities. And he's had moments where he's had to run the house, and I've had moments where I have to run the house, and we all have moments where we're running kids everywhere, and we both have to work full time, and we both want to work full time. So it's something that we just have to figure out and do because we love what we do and we love our family. And so we are both fortunate enough to work in places where a family first environment is here for us and feel very supported in that, and having the time that we need to be with our families. And that's really important. And that's also what makes Red Team for me a wonderful place to be.
Thank you for sharing that, Tracy.
Yeah.
I think I totally agree with you. Sports is probably the best microcosm from life, and I can't wait to get my two little girls when they're old enough and into it. And I have so much admiration and respect for the way you and your husband are raising your kids, and you're instilling those same, play nice but win values, and the initiative. And there's a fierce spirit under that warm smile that you have. So
Yeah, yeah. Play nice and win, but also be a good loser. Like, like there's a graceful way to lose too. So, we're not going to win all the time, right? And so that's something that we need to instill as well. Is how do we lose with grace, and how do we pick ourselves back up and have a winning mindset for the next game. So it's definitely a challenge, but I think when you grow up in sports, it's a challenge. That's what we're here for. We're here for that. So I I love it. It's been a rewarding career so far, and thank you so much for inviting me to be a part of this podcast. I'm super excited for Axis Hospitality and for the growth that I know that you guys are going to experience, and the impact that you guys have the ability to have on your niche of the industry. I think is really very cool. And we're just excited that Red Team gets to be a small piece of your success going forward. So thank you for inviting me to be here, and thank you for investing in Red Team and letting us help you get there.
thank you, Tracy. So let's end with a couple rapid fire questions. We'll have some fun at the end here.
Yeah,
You can say the first thing that comes to your mind. You don't have to give any explanation or context. I'm just this will be a little fun. So we're a hospitality company. So what is your favorite hotel?
Hilton.
Any Hilton.
Any Hilton. I'm a Hilton Honors member, Hilton Grand Vacation Club member. My parents are, so I get to inherit that. But it's been my favorite. I've had, and sorry, this is not rapid fire. I've in my time, remember Travelocity, I've made my fair share of mistakes booking hotels. So I became a Hilton Honors member, and now I'm like, I can't even do anything else now because you don't want me picking a hotel. I accidentally booked us a hotel in Daytona, and think Cockroach Biker Motel. But the website pictures had a beautiful ocean view. And, so anyway, that was a mistake. So now I go to my Hilton app and I just, you know, book from there.
uh, if Red Team, every time I log into Red Team, if Red Team had a walk up song, what would that walk up song be?
Yeah, here comes the rooster. Yeah. I think, let's see. I don't know. That's a great question. I always get stumped. I love music, and usually my walkout songs tend to be like 90s alternative rock related of some kind. So there you go. Probably pick one of those, or 80s Metallica, probably.
What's the best advice someone gave you, but you didn't take?
Oh, that I didn't take.
And if you don't know that, you could. You sounded like you had the best advice came to mind as soon as I said that. You could take it that direction too.
Well, the be nice, like the be nice, and it pays to be nice is the one that is like the lifeblood of Traci. Advice I didn't take. Um, One of my mentors told me to walk into a situation and do this, this, and this, and I didn't do it. And I'm living with the consequences in that particular instance. And if I would have just done what he told me to do in the first place, it would have a different outcome today. So I think sometimes listening to our mentors and acting on what they tell us because they're telling us that based on experience that they've had, um, and the results that they got because they've made the mistake 15 times and then they finally figured out the answer and they're sharing with us the wisdom and then we don't act on it. Those have been the times where I have regretted it. And so now I love learning from my mentors and trying to be quicker to do what they say and not having to figure it out on my own, trusting in their previous mistakes and not making it myself, and just do what they say.
What part of construction still lights you up? You have this every time you say construction, you just gave the example when you're talking about your kids and traveling with them, but you still love construction. What part of that lights that up in you?
I don't know. I had an interesting client meeting actually this week. I went to go visit a client in Kentucky and they were like, "Well, what's next for Traci? Like you're not going to be in software all the time." And I'm like, "I don't know, maybe not, um but I love but I was saying but something in construction. Like it's not even a question for me like what I'm going to do in my life. It's going to be something in this industry whether I end up staying in technology or not." Um I love it. Like I just love every aspect about it. I had an opportunity to go on top of the Tennessee State Capitol building in the middle of November and look at the standing seam copper roof that they're putting on it and how they're updating the cupola and like all this stuff and I'm like this is just so freaking cool. And I just love it. I don't know what it is, but like we'll be driving anywhere and I'll be like, what's going on over there? You see that crane? It's probably doing blah, 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 blah. And so I'm sure like my kids get tired of me like getting really excited anytime we pass a construction project of, hey, mom, what's that? I'm like, well, honey, though they're getting ready to build a wall along the interstate so that those houses behind don't get all the road noise. And that's the foundation. And they're putting in the rebar so that they can pour the concrete. And so like they just get to hear all this stuff about construction, but I don't know what it is. I've always loved it. I've always loved getting to go to my dad's job sites and watch him pour the foundation and have him explain to me what this is. Well, that's the footing. We've got to put that in so that it's on a firm foundation. And they've got to they're going to dig those trenches so that they can put all the pipes in the slab. And so I just started absorbing a lot of that. But I was curious and I loved it from the very beginning. And I'd go sweep the floors and clean it up and I'd collect all the copper wires and go strip the copper wires and then we saved the money, like we recycled it and we saved the money and we got season passes to Disney World. So like there were just fun things that now I think I associate because of my experience as a kid and growing up in it that I walk into a new construction site and I smell the timber and I look at the sparks that are flying because somebody's welding over there and I'm just like this is just so cool. And I hope that's something that never wanes, that and it hasn't so far and I'm 46 years old. So I don't think it will, but I do love it and it excites me no matter what I'll get it. If you take me on a hotel construction site, I'll be excited. I promise it. There's not probably any type of construction that I'm going to be like, yeah, this isn't for me. It's all exciting to me. So I love it.
Maybe it's a combination of your past and your future. It's in your DNA. It reminds you of your dad and the generations of the
Mhm.
family, and then maybe you see the potential of what could be, and maybe it's a
Yeah.
combination of both of those
Yeah.
things for you.
And you mentioned it too, like seeing the finished product, having something that I'm proud of. But also, I think for me, something that's been very cool for me in the tech side of the business is getting really proud of our companies who are achieving really cool things because of the growth that they've had. That also lights me up too. So I don't know, Kory, I love it.
Well, a conversation for another time, because it wouldn't be a rapid fire question. But your seat at the industry, you see so many of me's, different construction companies,
Mm,
different industries, different sizes, family businesses, large businesses.
yeah.
We're gonna have a separate talk, maybe a separate podcast about Tracy's vantage point of the construction industry and the what makes a good one and all those sorts of things. Um,
Well, we can turn that into a question. What is the one thing, Tracy, that you see that every contractor you meet with has something special, and really it may everybody has the same thing, and that is a magic Excel spreadsheet. Everybody has a magic Excel spreadsheet. You think you've honed a niche on the way that you've built this formula to calculate, somebody else has that same thing. I can guarantee you that.
all right, last two. What's harder, building a skyscraper or building a great team?
Oh man, it's the same. It's people. Um, it's all people, because you're assembling a people team to build that skyscraper, and you're building a team with people, and so it's building that team around you that you can win with, that's going to get that skyscraper built. So I think, to me, they're intertwined. You cannot build the skyscraper without building a team you can win with first, and so to me, those are intertwined.
Last question. We're a hospitality company. We're a hospitality podcast. So, in the spirit of hospitality, what's the kindest thing that anyone has ever done for you?
Oh man, I work with a lot of really nice people. Um, the kindest, oh, that's hard, Kory. The kindest thing anybody has done for me. If we're thinking about hospitality, just the thoughtfulness that people have in, for you, you're doing hotels. And so, what are some of the special things in hospitality that you can do for your guests and making them feel warm and welcome, and like what they're stepping into is a home away from home? Um, Anytime I step into a hotel experience and feel that, is going to make me want to come back. And so, there are lots of nice things like in hospitality that people do, like, here's a free massage. Okay, awesome, thank you so much, now I feel much more relaxed and I can enjoy this time away from wherever I'm traveling from. So I don't know, I bump into so many kind people. There's a lot of kindness in the world. We run into a lot of negativity, especially in our world today, that we hear, and there's a lot of fear, and there's a lot of humanity that we bump into, and there's a lot of unkindness, there's wars happening. But at the end of the day, I think some of the things that we've seen, and some of the things that I experienced, especially coming out of COVID, is that there's still community, there's still a togetherness, there's still a camaraderie, there's still a kindness, there's still hospitality. We bump into hospitality in all kinds of places, from a neighbor sharing some salt, so that I can finish my meal. I had to run to my neighbor and say, "Hey, I do not know what happened to all of my spoons, but can I borrow 6 spoons? I have a group of ladies coming over and I'm serving soup." Like, I have no spoons. So, just small kindnesses that I think we interact with every day, that, hopefully we can reflect and have gratitude that, that there's so much kindness around us all the time. And so I hope I'm that for others. And I feel like I see that in different ways all the time.
Well, Tracy, you certainly are. And thanks for coming on. This was a blast. I appreciate your time and looking forward to continuing our Red Team relationship.
Thank you so much for having me. I enjoyed it as well. We'll talk with you very soon.
Thanks.